Mark and Elaine Dawson were the picture of the perfect suburban couple, hardworking, quiet, and devoted to their two children, Kayla and Ethan. But behind the doors of their peaceful Florida home, Mark was hiding a secret that would get all four of them killed. When their entire family was found executed with chilling precision, investigators uncovered a dark web of money laundering, betrayal, and a hired killer trained to leave no trace. The grass was freshly cut, the mail hadn't overflowed, and there were no signs of forced entry. Dinner plates with untouched food sat on the table. It was as if time had stopped mid-evening. Police immediately sealed off the scene. The Dawsons were quiet. Reporters swarmed the neighborhood. Helicopters hovered overhead. On a Wednesday 3 days before they were discovered, his employer mentioned he had been acting distracted and anxious. These messages, buried in a hidden folder, hinted at a possible threat. Mark appeared to be communicating with someone using code words and vague phrases like "burn everything" and "not safe to talk here." The encrypted emails were eventually decoded with the help of cybercrime experts. The contents revealed that Mark had been in contact with someone using an alias connected to a now defunct Miami import-export company. Whether he did this as insurance or with the intention of exposing it later wasn't clear. What was clear was that someone had found out and wanted to make sure that information never saw the light of day. The company, registered under the name Knox Freight Solutions, had been shut down 3 years earlier during a large-scale federal investigation into money laundering for a South American drug cartel. At the time, no charges had stuck, and the case had quietly disappeared from headlines. This suggested he might have been hiding something big enough to risk his family's safety. A check of his bank activity revealed something even more puzzling: a large cash withdrawal of $35,000 2 weeks before the murders. This wasn't a crime of passion or random violence. This looked planned, strategic. Whoever did this had a purpose. And they didn't just want Mark dead, they wanted to erase his entire family. The money was not found anywhere in the house. That kind of sum stood out, especially considering the family's average middle-class lifestyle. The estimated time of death aligned with the eerie quiet neighbors recalled that morning. It was raining lightly, and nobody had noticed anything out of the ordinary. On the surface, it seemed like a standard contract job, filing taxes and managing accounts. But something didn't add up. Mark had saved copies of sensitive documents, including offshore bank transfers, fake invoices, and ledgers tied to international shell companies. These files were hidden in a password-protected drive on his home server. If there had been a sound, it had blended into the night unnoticed. The once quiet community was now the center of a full-blown homicide investigation. Police told the media only the basics, keeping the most disturbing details under wraps. But one thing was certain: someone had walked into the Dawson home, killed 4 innocent people with deadly precision, and vanished without a trace. No witnesses, no fingerprints, no obvious motive. Just silence, and 4 bodies lying cold in a house that had, until now, only known peace. Friendly family. Mark worked as a financial consultant. Elaine helped out at the local library part-time. Their children were well-liked at school, involved in sports and church activities. Nobody could think of a single reason why anyone would want to hurt them. Nothing appeared to be missing. Wallets, electronics, and personal valuables were all in place. There was no forced entry, no alarm triggered, and no signs of a struggle. The crime scene, though clean and undisturbed, didn't sit right with investigators. It was too perfect. The house was undisturbed, expensive electronics still in place, and no drawers rifled through. That pointed to either a personal motive or a targeted killing. Investigators dug deeper into the family's background, hoping to find a lead. Elaine's life was simple: library work, community events, and school meetings. The kids had no issues with bullying or dangerous friendships. Mark, however, raised a few more questions. Each family member had been killed in a different room with 1 shot to the head. No defensive wounds, no screams reported, no broken windows. It was clear the killer either knew the Dawsons personally or was highly skilled in getting in and out unnoticed. But a foul smell lingered near the back of the house. The sliding glass door was slightly ajar. What the officers found inside would shake the entire community. Mark Dawson, his wife Elaine, and their 2 children, Kayla and Ethan, were all found dead, each in separate rooms, each killed with a single gunshot to the head. What started as a quiet disappearance turned into one of the most disturbing and mysterious family murders the state had ever seen. It was a peaceful Saturday morning in Palm Ridge, a quiet suburban neighborhood in Central Florida, the kind of place where people left their doors unlocked and waved to each other across trimmed hedges. That sense of safety was shattered when a teenage paperboy noticed something strange while doing his usual route. The Dawson's newspaper had been sitting on the porch for 3 days. Their 2 cars hadn't moved, the blinds were drawn, and the porch light was still on in the broad daylight. Concerned, the boy told his mother, who then called the police for a welfare check. When officers arrived at the Dawson residence, everything seemed normal from the outside. There was no blood smeared, no broken furniture, no chaos, just stillness and death. The television in the living room was still on. Neighbors were stunned. News spread quickly. As detectives took over the Dawson home, they began methodically examining every corner, every drawer, and every digital device. Autopsy reports confirmed that all 4 victims had died between 2 and 3 a.m. Detectives ruled out robbery almost immediately. In the weeks before the murder, Mark had taken multiple days off work without explanation. Investigators obtained Mark's laptop and found something strange: several encrypted emails with no clear sender address. Detectives couldn't yet make sense of it, but a new theory was forming. As investigators followed the trail left behind on Mark Dawson's computer, a more troubling picture began to emerge. Digging further, detectives discovered that Mark had worked as a financial consultant for Knox Freight Solutions nearly 5 years ago. Investigators now believe that Mark had uncovered illegal activity during his time with the company and had quietly kept the evidence. Elaine's phone records revealed she had no knowledge of Mark's secret dealings. Her routine remained unchanged in the days leading up to the murders. The killer had until they matched a man named Julian Mercado, a former D agent who had gone off the grid 2 years earlier. Mercado had disappeared following a corruption investigation into agents working with drug traffickers. Rumors swirled that he had fled the country, but no charges had ever been filed, and he hadn't been seen since. A background search revealed that he had military training, experience with covert entry, and deep knowledge of surveillance systems. Investigators returned to Mark's encrypted files and discovered a recently edited folder. The execution-style arrangement had been carefully staged to mislead detectives into believing it was the work of a cold assassin. In reality, it was psychological torture designed to break Mark before ending his life. Inside was a list of offshore accounts tied to Knox Freight Solutions, most of them dormant except one. The message was clear: cooperation with authorities or the media would be met with merciless punishment. And who would benefit from both the deaths and the message it sent? Just days before the murders, $50,000 had been transferred from that account to a wallet address linked to a private security firm in South America, suspected of recruiting former military operatives for contract killings. Mark had made a failed attempt to transfer documents and evidence to a whistleblower site 5 days before the murders. Others thought he had simply vanished into the criminal underworld. But in Palm Ridge, and across the web's darker corners, the story lives on of a family destroyed not by a single man, but by a shadowy network that thrives in silence, hidden behind money, secrecy, and fear. The site's logs showed the upload was intercepted midway, suggesting someone had been monitoring Mark's online activity closely. If anyone could silently kill a family without leaving much evidence, it was him. It was a cleanup job, surgical and paid for, and whoever was behind it had no intention of leaving any loose ends. For the angle was low, slightly tilted and shaky, as if hidden beneath clothing. The video showed the inside of the Dawson home. Mark was seen pacing in the kitchen, visibly anxious. His eyes darted toward the hallway, where muffled sobs echoed faintly. He spoke to someone off camera, his words urgent but unclear. The final moments of the video showed Mark reaching for a gun from a gloved hand. The screen went black seconds later. Mark they had. It contained no note, no return address, only a flash drive. The drive was immediately handed over to cybercrime analysts, who uncovered a single video file. What they saw changed the course of the investigation entirely. Come to silence any potential witnesses and send a message. But there was one piece still missing. How did the killer know when to strike? And how did they get in without breaking anything? The children's devices were checked too. No unusual activity, no signs they were aware of anything suspicious. A technician found that remote access had been enabled 3 days before the murders. The system logs showed the alarm was manually disabled at 2:05 a.m., whose house sat diagonally across from the Dawsons, zooming in frame by frame. The plate was unreadable. but a cracked taillight on the passenger side offered a potential lead. That detail, though small, helped investigators trace the vehicle to a rental agency near Miami. The SUV had been returned a day after the murders, and although it had been cleaned thoroughly, a small smear of dried blood was found under the rear floor mat. Forensics later confirmed it matched the DNA of Ethan Dawson. Submitted footage from a motion-activated security camera. Although the camera didn't directly face the Dawson home, it captured the corner of the street where a black SUV appeared around to 16 a.m. on the night of the murders. It idled with its lights off before slowly driving toward the Dawson's driveway. 18 minutes later, the same SUV backed out and drove away. The timestamp matched the estimated time of death determined by the coroner. That night, whoever did this didn't just plan the murders, they watched, waited, and used the family's own technology against them. This confirmed what detectives feared. Mark had likely kept everything to himself, unknowingly putting his entire family at risk. The working theory shifted. Attention turned to the family's smart home system. The case was no longer just a local homicide. It had the fingerprints of something far more calculated and dangerous. The investigation took a sharp turn when a neighbor. Detectives paused the footage. The rental had been booked under a false identity. However, fingerprints on the steering wheel and door handle provided a breakthrough. Now he was the prime suspect in the Dawson murders. Agents began tracking possible sightings of Mercado, focusing on places known for cartel activity and old contacts from his D-days. But the motive was still murky. Who had hired him, and why now? Detectives now believe this wasn't just a revenge killing. Just as authorities widened the search for Julian Mercado, an unmarked envelope arrived at the Palm Ridge Police Department. The footage, dated the night of the murders, appeared to be from a body camera. Forensic audio experts enhanced the sound. It revealed a chilling pattern. The killer had forced Mark to watch each family member executed before making him turn the gun on himself. This revelation sent investigators into a deeper spiral. Why go to such lengths? Why create a scene so specific and calculated? Digging into the financial records one last time, analysts uncovered something previously overlooked. The entire operation, it now seemed, was designed not just to silence Mark, but to stop the release of information that could implicate a far-reaching criminal network. Despite this new evidence, Julian Mercado remained missing. Some believed he was dead, eliminated by the same people who hired him. The Dawson case was eventually closed without an arrest, marked as unsolved with credible leads.